Black people want to be left alone. They don't want revenge. They don't want to replace us, as some extremist groups have said. They just want to live life in peace, the way they want to live. They want family, they want love, and they want to live in a society where they know they belong here. They want society to also know that they belong here. They want to walk out their door and not worry that they're going to be treated unfairly, or they're going to get that look like they're not welcome, or that someone's going to try to touch their hair like a zoo animal. Yes, they want they want white people to fix white problems of prejudice and ignorance and all the ways that a wrongful sense of superiority is baked into our society. Yes, they want that to change. Yes, they want acknowledgement for harms done. They don't want us to just explain things away or justify or gloss over things without really listening. But more than anything, they want to be themselves, fully express who they are, love who they are, be with their family, and live in peace.
Okay, take some precautions, but let that shit play out. Farmers on this app boo-hooing because they're losing their farms, fuck all the way off. What did you think was going to happen? Joe Biden bailed you out, then you turned around and voted for Trump. So yeah, I'm glad that all your government grants and bailouts and farmer welfare got taken away from you. And I hope to God a Democrat buys your land and is profitable. Truckers. Oh my God, the amount of truckers on my algorithm right now boo-hooing that they don't have any loads, which by the way, at first is kind of funny. But what? 90% of you voted for this. What the fuck did you think was going to happen when he tariffed the whole world and there was going to be no product to move around the country? Hello? Oh my God. Oh my God. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm scared to death of the fucking shitstorm that we are all about to fucking walk through. And the longevity of those empty shelves fucking keeps me up at night. But the only thing that keeps me going is that any day it could happen.
You're one of these farmers out here and you're losing your farm, or you're close to it, and you're wondering why all the liberals don't care and why we're being cruel. Because we begged you to care. We begged you to vote for the person who was going to help you. And instead you voted for the one guy who did not care for you at all. Boo-boo. He bankrupted a casino. The hell you think he's going to do with your farm? Like I said, you enjoy your misery. You enjoy losing your house and your farm. We told you. We told you what was going to happen. So don't come over here crying. I do not care. I don't care. Listen, I'll go outside and eat the bark off of a tree before I will ever care about you or any MAGA or any conservative Republicans ever again.
A lot of people effed around and now they're finding out. And no group of people is going to find out more quickly than farmers because they're really going to get screwed. With the cutting of this USAID program, they're really going to get hit hard because what was that program, or is that program that is not being operated as it's supposed to be because of Donald Trump giving complete control of the federal government to the billionaire who bought him, Elon Musk. Anyways, what was the purpose of that? The purpose was to provide humanitarian relief around the world. And a big part of that was providing food to desperate people around the world. And what we did through that program is purchase a lot of agricultural products produced by American farmers and then distribute those products around the world. Now that money is being withheld illegally, but it's being withheld, and farmers are not getting paid, and their products, their agricultural products, are no longer being purchased by the federal government. I saw a guy, you've probably seen this, it's gone viral, some MAGA farmer complaining about how all these contracts he had to sell hundreds of thousands of dollars of agricultural products to the federal government, that's all being cut now. And he's out hundreds of thousands of dollars. And he specifically starts the video by saying he voted for Donald Trump. And he doesn't take that back, by the way. Apparently, he's still a Trump supporter. And then he goes on to explain how all of these contracts, all this money he was getting, was through the Inflation Reduction Act passed by Joe Biden. And so he's benefiting greatly from Joe Biden's policies. So what does he do? He votes for Donald Trump. Donald Trump promptly kills all of that. He's out hundreds of thousands of dollars, yet he can't bring himself to say that he made a mistake in voting for Donald Trump. The man is losing hundreds of thousands of dollars, and he still can't admit that he made a mistake. These friggin' MAGAs, I'm sorry, I'm going to enjoy people like this guy losing everything. There's consequences for stupidity, and they're going to learn that.
To all my farmer neighbors, my name is Susie, and I live in rural Missouri. You were warned over and over and over. We told you there was no drag queen story hour. There were no furries in our school using litter boxes. But you guys refused to call the superintendent of the schools like I did. I called Rolla Public Schools and asked Dr. Dare if there was any truth to that. He laughed and said maybe I was watching too much TV. We told you that China signed 20-year contracts with Brazil for soybeans. You laughed in our face. I'm not going to say I told you so, but I do not want to bail you out for the next 20 years, and I will fight against it. China signed 20-year contracts with Brazil for soybeans because of Donald J. Trump. They don't want our soybeans. They don't want our beef. They don't want our wheat. They don't want anything we grow. As far as we're concerned, China can stick it up our ass. And can you blame them? Can you really blame them?
When y'all say that African people sold us into slavery, what it teaches me is three things. One, that you guys don't view us as a diverse set of people with different genotypes and phenotypes, cultures, ethnicities, religions, clans, nationhoods, kingdoms, you name it. You view us as the same people, one race, one monolithic group of people. We all one, we all in the club, we all fam. Like, that's literally how y'all see us. Number two, what it teaches me is that we people in modern times tend to look at history from a 21st century perspective rather than the perspective of the people who were living in those times. And number three, what it teaches me is that a lot of you don't seem to see slavery as something that happened to African people. You think, because you've delineated from Africans and Africa, and rightfully so, you seem to think that Africans are this big bad boogeyman that just rounded up all these people and sold y'all off. When in reality, the average West African and Central African in this day and age is related to the people that were sold, not the people who were doing the selling. The people that were selling slaves were aristocrats, were kings and queens, were chiefs, were people of high status and power, militarily and politically. And there were slave catchers, don't get me wrong. What I'm not going to do is try to pretend as if there weren't average everyday Africans going around capturing people and selling people off for a quick buck or a mirror or some alcohol. I'm not going to sit up here and pretend as if that hasn't happened. But what I'm trying to say here is that the average West and Central African today has ancestors who are related to the people who were sold. They have ancestors who have daughters that were kidnapped. They have ancestors that have husbands, that have wives, that have uncles, that have aunties, that have parents that were sold into the slave trade, that were brutalized, beaten, sexually assaulted, and shipped off to the Americas, never to return again. And I feel like y'all don't realize that because you don't think of slavery as something that happened to African indigenous people. You think of us as separate from your ancestors, when your ancestors are oftentimes related to a lot of West African people in modern day times. Another thing you have to realize is that the Black identity is relatively new in history. There was no Black identity in Africa. As a whole, we were never all a bunch of Black people just betraying each other and selling each other. African indigenous people were at war with each other and were oftentimes selling prisoners of war, and were also raiding villages and selling off people after they had won those wars. They were capturing innocent people from their villages and sending them off away. That's literally what was happening, which means that there was no concept of us black people versus white people. There was no us versus them. So there was no sense of loyalty or camaraderie. It was every man for himself.
American chattel slavery and the Jewish Holocaust are not the same. So when we bring up slavery, please do not counter that with the Holocaust. It is not the same. To the point that after the Holocaust, the American government and Britain colluded to then allow those Jewish people to go and colonize a whole nother land full of melanated people in true white colonizer fashion. Not just that, American tax dollars have been funding reparations for these people for decades. While America perpetuated slavery, Jim Crow, and a plethora of other oppressive and genocidal acts against American citizens, and no reparations have ever been given. So they are not the same. We don't have to talk about them in the same conversation. Have a good day.
So I want to respond to this young lady right here, this comment. Now, this is not to attack her, but it is just to highlight how deeply conditioned many of us have been by Christianity and why so many people are rejecting it. Now, what we see in this comment is classic Stockholm syndrome, not just on a personal level, but through collective cultural trauma. Now, in this comment, she says that she believes that, the suffering of our ancestors was God's punishment because they worship their own gods. And I told her, my response was, your religion did not exist tens and thousands of years ago, but our ancestors did. So how does it make sense that they were punished for a God, or not serving a God rather, that they did not know, they had no knowledge of, and a God that didn't exist because the text didn't exist? The story of this God had not come to fruition yet. So how could they have been punished? But she still doubled down on her response, and she says they were punished because they didn't follow the God of the Bible. When black people say things like we were punished because we worship other gods and slavery was a part of God's plan, they're not speaking from a historical context. They are speaking from trauma. It is literally inherited and passed down. This type of logic, instead of blaming the oppressor, you rationalize and you have to come up with a reason. You have to see the suffering as divine. This is Stockholm syndrome. They internalize the suffering as necessary, and this creates a sense of loyalty to this God. But this thinking did not just start. This is passed down, as I said before, even throughout slavery. The slave masters would actually teach this. They would tell the slaves that they were wicked people, that they had to be punished, that they were doing this because God told them to. They gave them slave Bibles. And the slaves begin to internalize these teachings, and they actually begin to believe it. They begin to think that their slave masters were God ordained. A lot of the slaves began to defend their slave masters. When they would die, they would mourn their deaths because their minds were conditioned. Dr. Joy DeGroy, she calls it post-traumatic slave syndrome. It is the lingering generational trauma that is still showing up today, especially through religion. So when you hear people like this say, if it were not for slavery, we would not know God, these are coping mechanisms. They are trauma responses. This is not some type of spiritual insight. It is a loyalty that was programmed through pain and through domination.
Y'all seen our farmer on here begging for us to help him because he about to lose his goddamn farm because of Trumpy Dumpy. But the person or the people who was in office, the ones who gave him that funds to get the goddamn farm and all that for so he can afford it, you voted against him. Now you talking about some, it's not supposed to be us against them. Like the people against the people. It's supposed to be us against those corrupt people because both sides corrupt. You voted for him, sir. Now you want us to help you? See, y'all didn't think that none of the shit that Trump was saying was going to affect y'all. But now that it do, now you want everybody to unite. Sir, that is not our problem. You can kiss that old McDonald farm goodbye. Because they was tearing you up in them comments, rightfully.
I'm sure you've heard that Arkansas farmers are about to go bankrupt because of the tariffs. But this is what they voted for. Like, not only did they fail an open book test, we gave them the answers. They don't like politicians and they wanted small government. So they hired a reality star who ran, what was it, 4 casinos into the ground. That's like hiring Guy Fieri to run an airport. Actually, that's a bad comparison because Guy Fieri was actually a good businessman. Trump ran casinos into the ground. And I don't know if you know much about casinos, but they're not typically a business that doesn't make money. It's literally where people go to throw their money away. But no, they were always saying, Trump's a businessman, he'll fix the economy. Yeah, and Jeffrey Dahmer was a chef, but you don't invite him to dinner. They wanted a straight shooter. Congrats, you got one. And he shot you straight in the face and then blamed it on China. You'd hear them say, we need to go back to the way America used to be. Yeah, you did. Now your farm's gonna be auctioned off like it's 1932. I mean, you brought back full Depression-era cosplay. But I mean, hey, one woman's emails were too fishy and the other one's laugh was weird.
But I'm not gonna allow myself to get into to get in all my feelings about mankind, my fellow man, and being nice about it. When in fact this calls for the opposite. It needs to be screamed from the mountaintop, and people need to be told what's going on. And some people that get in my way, I have to be a little mean about it, and that's just the way it goes. But it doesn't mean that I hate them, because I want them to do well. I want them to not have to go through this. But what the problem is the fact that it just continues to happen, and not only do they not know, they cheer for it, and you're looking at them like, are you serious right now? Like, that we've lost so much in this country, and the reason why they don't know what it is that I just said, and even the explanation of us losing as much as we have. You tell them this, and then they just say that I'm lying, that I'm stupid, and that I'm just making up shit, and that I'm just spreading misinformation. And I'm not doing that. I'm only telling you what happened today. Tell that to the soybean farmers, Gonzo Tar Pit. Yeah, so if you don't know, because there's still some MAGA watching me right now, all right? But let me tell you what's going on, MAGA, with our farmers, because I know you don't know this. And I know for a fact you're not being told this, because they're not talking about this on Fox Lies. They're not talking about this on Benny Johnson's show. They're not talking about this on Patrick Bet-David. They're not talking about it on any of the QAnon networks, Newsmax and all those nonsense. The farmers, at a rapid rate, record-breaking rates, are losing their farms. There was a time during the summer, if you guys remember the short, it went very viral. It got like 500,000 hits. It's very viral for me, right? And it had like 500,000 views, and here and on TikTok, on both platforms. So it really got like 1 million views, right? But I start off and I go, MAGA, I've got really great news for you. We all know that you guys absolutely love high prices. That's right. And so guess what? Get ready for it. 100% of all the farmers are not coming to work. And then I play a cheer. And then I go, that's right. I knew you guys were going to love that. I knew it. You guys love this. You just love the high prices. Well, guess what? Gas prices are going to go up too. And I go on and with this thing, right? And the reason why I say it like that is because when the farmers at that point, when I said it that in that video, at that point during the summer, it had just happened either the day before or the day before that, where like, it was like this obscene amount of farmers in Texas had to literally say, we have to close. We're closing because nobody showed up for work in their farms in the state of Texas. Now, this is nationwide, and I know MAGA doesn't know about that. They don't know about how nationwide farmers are going under. They don't know about it. They don't know. I'm telling you. I know some of you guys are watching me going, no, they know. No, they don't. They do not know. I'm telling you. Whenever they see someone like me and they hear me talking about how farmers are literally losing all of their farms and nobody's going to work, they don't know. They have no idea. They're like, what the are you talking about? That's not true. Why are you saying that? Except it is true. That's why 40% higher is vegetables and stuff like this at the food store. That's why beef is at all-time highs. And by the way, it's just going to get worse. It's not going to get any better. Like it's not. They're not going to get better. They're still going to keep on losing people, and people are going to.
Commenting about the Ukrainians, and they were saying, yeah, but these people are literally, if they go back there, they could die and stuff. We could die as well. I told them that my father wasn't alive and we had to escape, and they were laughing about it. We're saying, yeah, well, we all have problems, but they were defending the white people. And what I'm trying to say is that, like, we don't want you to defend us. You don't have to defend us. It's okay. You guys have your own problems. I'm just telling you about history, what happened, how Mexicans helped the black slaves, how a lot of Mexicans got killed as well, saving them, how we have always stand.
I think I might be the only millennial that doesn't give a fuck about not owning anything. I have expanded my consciousness enough to realize that ownership and slavery are literally the same thing, even though it isn't being possessive of a person. It is simply being possessive of a thing. And here in the United States, this country was built off of ownership, which is the reason why this country claims that it is the best country. And we are now seeing how the implications under ownership it's harmful to everyone, because this country was built off of owning people, which then allowed that to be transferred to owning things, which is then another form of slavery, because to be able to keep these things that you own, you must then pay money. And in order for you to pay that money, you must then work a job, which in turn creates you to be a slave. You are just a slave to a system that is running for profit when you are not making any. You're literally just working day in and day out as a slave to own something. And the more I realize this, the less I want to own something, because most people are trying to free themselves. That's why they say financial freedom. Well, the opposite of being free is you being a slave. It's you being shackled to something. It's you getting your paycheck and having to split that paycheck up in parts for your survival. Not for your enjoyment, not for your leisure, but literally for your survival. And then not to mention that you are trading in your time to do labor for said survival. I am at the point in my journey spiritually, I don't desire to own anything. And when I used to own things, and that was probably the most unhappiest I ever was in my life. And I think this is why for a lot of boomers have this grandiose, narcissistic way about themselves, because they were the first to be pioneered into this very systematic.
So now that Trump is doing like the mass deportation, this Mexican woman, and I've seen a few other Mexicans saying that black people needed to help them and stand in solidarity with them. This is not our fight. And she's talking about how the Mexicans helped the black slaves and how they were killed and on the front lines. First of all, we don't even have to go back in history. We already have a lot of issues in our community that we have to face daily and that we're marching for, going to Congress about, trying to get bills passed. We don't have any allies. So we don't even got to talk about slavery. What about now? I don't see the Mexican community rallying behind black people. I just don't see it, not by the droves. I'm not going to say on an individual level and on an individual basis, there are some of you that may, help. But this is not our fight. Don't. You see how they come and recruit us when they need help and when they need numbers? But when we need help and when we need numbers, we're just another nigga on the street. Like, come on, they a lot of these Latinas, they be racist too. Okay? I've been to Mexico and I've seen Mexicans that were dark as me. They don't get the representation in the media. We only see the lighter complected ones. Colorism is rampant over there too. We could go deep, but black people, stand down. I mean, if you want to help, that's up to you, but don't let these people guilt trip you. Not the guilt trip. What y'all think about this? Do we owe the Mexicans anything? Spread love is to Brooklyn Lane.
Hi guys, welcome back once again to my YouTube channel. I'm B-Boy. Remember, if it was for the first time you come across my video, don't forget to like this video and subscribe and share. Don't forget to like this video, give it a thumb up, and all the credits goes to original creator of the video. Okay guys, in this clip is all about how white folks, they're so much confused, they're so furious, and they're really asking themselves a lot of questions. Why are black people so silent during this hard time of economy, where black people ain't talking about anything, ain't coming out complaining of how the cost of living has really risen up, of how this new administration is just maybe messing everyone up. But these people, they have just forgotten that black people, one thing is that black people, they have been through this for a very long period of time, and one thing they don't know is that black people really came out in large number, and they really warned these people not to vote for this new administration. They warned them, but they didn't listen. They warned them and they told them that they always knew what was coming, because earlier on, we do remember when President Donald Trump was elected. During back then, was it 2018 or 2019? A lot of farmers really lost their farms. Almost like 1,000 farmers lost their farms. But right now, they really wanted ahead, and they were much convinced by this orange man, and they really wanted ahead, and they voted against their own interests. And other people, they have really came out and they said that MAGA people, they usually don't listen. If they can be given another chance, they can still vote for President Donald Trump for the fourth time, because the last time they voted for him, a lot of farmers really lost their farms because of Trump's tariff, and they were much destroyed, and they really went bankrupt. But right now, we've all seen they really wanted ahead, and they voted against their own interests. They wanted ahead, they voted out of hatred, they voted out of racism, and right now, that started to know how racism is so expensive, because a lot of people really want them, especially black people. They want these people not to vote for this new administration, but they didn't listen. They went ahead and they voted against their own interests. One thing I really love about our black brothers is that our black people, they have decided to remain silent, because black people, they have been through this for a very long period of time. All this problem that white people, they are really going through is black people, they have been through this for a very long period of time, and it's just that the table has turned. And when they are really going through this a lot, they are just coming in large number, and they just want both of them, both black and white people, both to suffer. But earlier on, these people voted to punish black people. These people voted to punish other people that are not American. They wanted ahead, and they voted to punish immigrants. We all know the farmers were really convinced to vote for the deportation of immigrants. But right now, we've all seen how farmers are really crying out for help, to a point whereby they are begging President Donald Trump to deport or to call back those immigrants that ICE agent is deporting. They are begging all those immigrants to come back to work in their farm, because they have came to their senses, and they have realized that without the immigrant, they will continue losing their farm. Without the immigrant, the economy of United States can't be stable. Without the immigrant, there's no way they can have a lot of profit in their farm, because a lot of farmers, we have all seen how they are losing their farms. They are going bankrupt. Their food crops, they are just rotting their farms. There's no anyone to pick, and a lot of people that have really came out and they are condemning them. They are telling them that we really warned you, but you didn't listen. We told you not to vote for this new administration, but we didn't listen. Right now, just call your families or call your MAGA supporters to go or come and help you to pick those food stuff in your farm. And these people that really started to regret a lot, because they really knew that voting for President Trump they will go through this, because we do remember all when President Donald Trump was doing his campaign. He really promised these people a lot of things. He really promised these people that the cost of living will reduce. He will reduce the cost of food prices. He will reduce everything. Even he won't endorse so much tariff on other countries. And but right now, we have all seen how these farmers, they are really crying out for help. We have all seen how these farmers, they are saying that they are regretting voting for this new administration, because right now they're going bankrupt. They have lost their farms. They don't have any money. Even they can't even have money to afford their basic needs. But they're really wondering, and they're really surprised, why do black people ain't complaining? But black people, they know how to thrive through the hard times. They know how to survive through harsh conditions and hard times, and this is the reason why black people, they have been able to survive in these western countries for a very long period of time, because they know how to thrive through these hard times, because black people, they have gone through a lot. Imagine all those times when they were early slave trade. We've all seen how black people they really went through a lot during the early slave trade. But right now, this just maybe a minor thing to them because they are used to these things. They are used to this kind of lifestyle. They're used to the cost of living rising up. They're used to, especially those black farmers. Those black farmers, most of black farmers, the reason why there's no more black farmers in America is because the government doesn't favor a lot the black farmers. Those government associations, those government negotiations that really help the farmers to grow their crops, they ain't favoring black farmers. They mostly favor white farmers, and this is the reason why there are so less black farmers in America. But black people, they're used to this. So whenever white people, they're really asking themselves, why do black people have decided to remain silent? It's that black people, they don't want any issue with anyone because they can be in a position to help someone, but also them, they're really going through a lot. So guys, this video is just for educational purpose. We are here to learn, and if it was the first time you are coming this video, don't forget to like this video, subscribe and share. Thank you so much for your time. May God bless you where you are. One love.